Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ellis Nordhoff, and today I'm back with a scout report. It's for Jake O'Brien, who is potentially signing for Everton from Lyon. I'm joined today by Paul Nealon of Irish Football Fan TV. How are we doing, Paul?
Hey Ellis, good morning. I'm doing good. Looking forward to having another toffee at Everton Football Club. He's obviously passed his medical now, so yeah, looking forward to hopefully seeing him unveiled very soon.
Well, who
How are
better to
you?
speak to than an Irish lad who's an Everton fan? So I'm great now because I'm sure you're going to know loads about him and you're going to have loads to tell us. So why don't we just start with the basics? Who is he? Because I'm sure a lot of fans won't quite know who he is yet. Tell us the basics about him. Who is Jake O'Brien?
Well, he's basically a man mountain of a centre back. He started out his career kind of at Cork City. He grew up as a young fella. He was in many different sports. He played the GAA, similar to Seamus Coleman, but he also has a bit of a background in boxing. So he's a bit of a hardy to centre back, like not someone you'd really want to mess with. He's a quiet side of that sort of lad off the pitch, but he's a bit of a leader on it. He started his career, as I said, at Cork City. He went on loan to Crystal Palace as a young fella. Basically went on a 6 month loan, and the Irish analyst Stephen Rice had brought him over because he was working with Crystal Palace. So he had him with the under 23s there, and he quickly became, a name in that Palace under 23 side and became the captain of that side. And then he was quickly signed. Didn't really get much of a chance at Crystal Palace. He had to go out on a couple of loan deals. He was at Swindon and he was at Molenbeek as well. He helped Molenbeek, excuse me, he helped Molenbeek get promoted when he went there. They were in the second tier, the Belgian league, and he went there and he helped them get promoted from the January, and that kind of propelled him quite a bit. He was getting quite a bit of notice there. He was at Swindon as well. And that was kind of off the back of that. He was getting into the Ireland under 21 side, but it was when he really went to Molenbeek is when he started getting kind of noticed. It was when he goes back to Palace. Will he get into the Palace team? And he obviously didn't. John Texter, who actually is involved with Everton at the moment, I think he's just talking him and the takeover and stuff like that. He's gone full John Texter there, because then he went to Lyon, and Texter owns Palace, Molenbeek, and Lyon, so he played for all three clubs. And potentially, if Texter takes over Everton, he could play there. But there is actually a video of John Texter in the cup final for Lyon talking about Jake O'Brien. It's clipped up on Twitter of him speak. I don't know who's. I think he's talking to the president, maybe of France or the French Football Federation. I can't remember who it is, but he's literally talking to Jake and going, "Oh, this guy came over on a trial, and now he came over from England on a trial, and now he's a star." And so that basically kind of shows. But for me, what Jake is someone who he believes in himself. Like he's gone everywhere he's had to go with a point to prove. Like again, it's like, is this fella good enough? Everywhere he's gone, he's got a point to prove. And I think if you look at Everton's transfer business so far this season, there's a lot of players that have come in there with a point to prove, like Iliman and Dye. Has a point to prove this season as well. Obviously, he's coming from France too, because last year didn't go so well. But Jake actually came off the back of a really good season. It was 27 appearances with Lyon and 4 goals and a couple of assists as well. I think it's 3 assists on top of that as well. So like he's obviously a danger in the box, or both boxes for his team. And even when he goes, he should, like, there was a bit of an outrage that he didn't get the call up as well, or sorry, the cap for Ireland. Like when he went to the first camp, I think we played Switzerland and Belgium, and he didn't get a minute. And John O'Shea persisted with the Premier League centre backs rather than Jake. Obviously, he's going to be a Premier League centre half now, but he played the last 2 games and he was quite impressive. And he did kind of look like one of the only players who was in a bit of form. And we played Portugal, and he was out muscling a lot of the Portuguese players. And he just looked really good. Think he came on as well in the second half against Hungary. We beat Hungary before they went to the Euros as well. So he played in that as well. That was a big victory for John O'Shea. It was a big victory for Ireland because we haven't won a lot of games. And obviously for him to be on the pitch and us to win the game was great as well. So like for me, Jake is someone who will come to Everton, a bit like Seamus Coleman, not really heard of by, I say, I say this because we put out an Instagram post last night and everyone was asking who is he, and this was Irish people as well. Um, but I think if you don't watch football, you'll say that. But if you've actually watched him, you'll see. I've seen him play games this season where he's had players like Aubameyang in his pocket, and he was, I think, the top scorer in the Europa League this year. So he didn't have a bad season, you know. Whereas when Jake came up against him, he done quite well against him, and he just seems to, every time he seems to have a test, he seems to pass it. And I think his test will be, can he break in and break that partnership up in a good way with Jared Branthwaite and James Tarkowski. And I wouldn't be surprised if he forced his way into the team before January, and then it becomes a mainstay. But people are going on as if he's like this obscure centre back from nowhere. But like, he's had a really good season with Leon. When Leon was struggling, he was one of the players that kind of went in there and led by example. And for a young lad like that to kind of come in from, like, he's just a normal lad from Cork, really, and he's gone in there and he's mixed in well with the squad in terms of, they've got Lacazette, they've got Dejan Lovren, who you'll know from Liverpool, they've got Tagliafico, who's a World Cup winner. So he was surrounded by players who've won lots of different stuff, and he seemed to be someone who was kind of thriving in that environment, and he was getting improving all the time. That's what I actually thought. This move was a bit of a shock that he would come to Everton. From an Irish perspective, maybe I was looking at it going, I don't understand really why he's coming to Everton. But Seamus Coleman seems to have played a huge part in convincing him that he will have a big future. I think it's a 5-year contract on the table there as well. So like, he's not coming for a short stint, but he's moved a lot, or he's moved around a lot at the minute. So I do think he's actually looking for, say, a home. And I do think it could be the perfect home for him. I think it could be a really good marriage of convenience between Everton and Jake. And I think if he can come in and be the dominating centre half, and you know, if he's scoring goals from corners constantly, he's a threat throughout. We need stuff like that, because you've seen how important James Tarkowski is in the opposition's box for every time we go up there. Even though if he's not scoring, he's still affecting games. You think of Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goal where Tarkowski, I think he puts the check on. I think it's Van Dijk, and allows Dom to get the jump and score goals. But like, I could foresee definitely seeing Jake scoring more goals for club and for country. I think he's gonna be a regular for Ireland as well if he can break into the Everton team.
He just seems to fit the ideal profile for a centre back, really, doesn't he? 6'6", 23 years old. It's the kind of player that you want Everton to be buying nowadays. You don't want us to be buying those players who may already be ready made but don't have much selling value. Like, this lad could come in, improve, and then be sold for more if he has to, or he could, like you say, become a mainstay in the Everton team. And I'm sure Seamus has had an impact, because there was other interest, wasn't there? Nottingham Forest wanted him, Ajax, I think, wanted him as well. So obviously
Wolves, I
he is
think
being
too.
watched. Yeah, that's it. So he's being watched by quite a few teams. And playing in Lyon, it's such a rare commodity for an Irishman to be in France as well. And to do that at such a young age, it takes a certain type of character to be playing in a different country, a different language. And I know he spoke to you on a podcast, and he was saying about how, like, he'd be shouting directions in English and stuff. So he seems to like have that confidence in himself, and he's going to need that if he's going to have to break into the Everton team. And you look at that defense at the moment, it was the fourth best defense in the league last year. To get into that is a tough ask, but I imagine the sell would have been from Everton. Jared Branthwaite could be leaving next year. James Tarkowski isn't getting any younger. You're the next man to step into this team. And you thought he could maybe even get in this season. And I did think that if he has been promised game time this year, like, surely he's only signed if he knows that he's going to get minutes, because why would a 23-year-old sign for Everton knowing they're only going to play next year? You'd just join the year after, wouldn't you? So, in terms of his strengths and weaknesses, I want to know what he's actually like as a player, because I've seen some people raise a few concerns about pace, which is obviously a bit of a worry. But then the strengths of it, obviously, you said he's good. He can score from corners, which is a massive thing. And obviously, the size of the guy as well, 6'6", is quite something, isn't it?
Well, like, people, I think this whole pace thing, I think that's been blown out of proportion. He's not slow. That's the first thing I'll say. He's not a slow sprinter. It's more, I think what these data analysts or data analysts or whatever they're called, sports scientists, they're looking at it going, he might be slow on the turn, or if a ball is played kind of in between the fullback and the centre half. I think might be a weak point of his game. But I think you're highlighting you're really kind of focusing in on one sort of area, whereas he's definitely got way more strengths than weaknesses. And if you're just kind of focusing on that one weakness, you can work on that. And I wouldn't be worried from an Everton perspective that that is the problem, because that can be worked on. James Tarkowski is not the fastest player at Everton, he's not the fastest defender in Premier League, but he's of a decent pace. But positionally, he's very sound. I think Jake could learn a lot from him. I think Sean Dyche will help him in terms of his defensive positioning and where to be. He's obviously going to be playing. Well, I don't know how often Seamus will play this season, but if he's playing alongside Seamus, that will help him as well. Because he'll have that know-how, and I'm sure Seamus will be kind of helping him at the moment, even trying to find a house and helping him off the pitch and helping him settle in and stuff like that. So having someone like that there, um, and Jake's not like a kind of antisocial lad. Like he will mix, and he seems to be quite popular with the French lads, or sorry, the his teammates, because there a lot of them are different nationalities at Lyon. But you know what I mean. Like he's quite popular amongst the group, and I think that'll be the same in Everton. He seems to be quite popular in Ireland as well with the teams. But like he's quite good actually at playing out from the back. So like he's not afraid to get the ball and start an attack from at the back as well. So I think that's quite underrated as well. Obviously, his main attributes are his strength. Very very well able to outmuscle a lot of players, and I think you need that in the Premier League. And there is a kind of you think of some of the weaker teams, they do have like, for example, I don't want to call us a weaker side, but like with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's a handful for most centre backs. I think Jake would actually do well against him if he was playing against him. But you think of those type of Chris Woods, those types of lads who are big physical players. I think Jake would thrive more against them than say a nippy kind of someone who's going to be on the shoulder of the defender the whole time type thing. But I think Sean Dyche isn't stupid. Like he will have someone there to counteract that pace. Like it might even be Nathan Patterson stays on the right or whatever. Not that he's the quickest either, but he's younger than Seamus. You know what I mean? So I do think that like whatever way he comes in, his strengths will show more than his weaknesses. And I do think like his main attributes are he can play out from the back. He starts a lot of attacks. He did it for Leon a good bit as well. I think that's the way they want to play. That's their kind of style of play, which I think is good as well for the loans that he went to Belgium and stuff like that. Like they're known for playing out from the back. They're known to play differently, say to your English traditional style, where it can be a route one. And I know sometimes look Everton do like to go route one. Like Jordan Pickford gets the ball a lot and sends it long, and Tarkowski loves the diagonal balls as well. So but Jared plays it out from the back. So it'd be like having a right footed version of Jared. I think maybe a slight bit slower, but like I'm saying, as actual speed and pace, he's not slow. So wherever this has come from, I'm not really sure. But I think it's more on the turn that people are worried about. But again, you have to remember that Everton play a low block a lot of the time against bigger sides and stuff like that. So is that really going to be an issue? In my opinion, it won't be. But again, you can work on that. And if he works on that and becomes sound, I mean, Tarkowski wasn't considered one of the best defenders in the Premier League, when he was at Burnley, and then he came to Everton, and he's 31 now. So imagine what Jake could do if he's given a couple of years to kind of excel under um, Sean Dyche. And I'm not putting pressure on him. I just think because of the way he is, his mentality, and speaking to him on that podcast and the way he comes across, like I I wouldn't be surprised if he's a future Everton captain because of the way he tries to lead from the back, and he's a talker, and like he's completely different from the nice young quiet lad off the pitch when he steps across the white line. Obviously, he's a switch, and he wants to win, and I think that he'll be a perfect signing for us. And I think that he's gonna, I think it's going to be a good signing. I really do. And again, from an Irish point of view, I really hope that this is a signing and he stays at Everton for a long time now as well.
It's like from a price perspective, 17 million seems like quite, I suppose it seems like quite a lot of spending for us because we didn't realize we really had 17 million to spend. But, the praise that you've heaped on there, potential future Everton captain, it sounds like we're getting in a player who, he could be here for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, even if he does grow and end up becoming our starting centre back. He could really do that. And we need, I feel like the void that Tarkovsky would leave if he left Everton needs to be filled by someone of a similar stature, similar personality, and sounds like he has that character. And obviously, Jared Branthwaite is probably the one that's going to leave next, and he's a bit of a different player to Jake O'Brien, I think, isn't he? I imagine you'd say that they have differing qualities. I imagine Branthwaite's a bit faster. You say that Jacob Brown might actually be better on the ball, so that'll be interesting to see.
I
But
wouldn't say I didn't say he's better than Jared on the ball. He is quite good on the ball.
is he? Yeah.
Jared,
Okay.
Jared's
So
more of a silkier, player. He looks the part. Maybe it's because he's left-footed as well. It always looks that bit better too.
right. So is it more of a case of like, would you see Jacob Brown as like a tough tackler, destroyer kind of defender rather than that neat, nice, clean defender like Jared Brandthwaite is?
He has a bit of both. Honestly, he has a bit of both. So I think I think they would complement each other quite well. Because if Jake's gone up to win a ball in the air, then you have Jared to kind of mop that up. But I think Jake could do equally that job too. So if Tarkowski's gone up for the ball and Jake is playing beside him, I think Jake could be the one who plays out. But like that, like Jared can defend as well. When he's been asked to defend all those blocks that he makes and everything like that. Like I think it's crucial that Everton keep Brantwaite as well. I think the three of them this season would be really and who knows, like Sean Dyche might be looking at it to try play sometimes with a three, with those three. I know, look, if one of them gets injured, it's a bit of a nightmare. But you do have Michael Keane there as a backup. But I do think that if we do play with the back three, I wouldn't be worried because I do think the two of them can play out from the back. It's just whether or not the midfielder in front can be effective on the turn. If we want to play that style of play of football, but that will depend on Sean Dyche. Obviously, we know that we can play one of two ways. We can knock it long up to Calvert-Lewin, but if he goes, do we change our style of play completely? Because I do think we've actually played good football at times, and playing out from the back and stuff like that. And I do think that we could potentially, if Dom goes, I think we might play a different style than what we've been playing at the moment. And I think if Jay comes in, he could do it either way. He can go long or he can pass it out. So I don't think this will be anything but a positive going forward, having him in there. And the price, 17 million in this age is nothing. Really, that's like the equivalent of a 5 million 10 years ago, I think,
Yeah,
and that's in
I do think
euros
it's
too,
not
by the way.
quite as much. Is it in euros? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that does make a bit of a difference then, doesn't it? And I imagine it won't be all getting paid out in one go as well. So you kind of look at transfers a bit differently nowadays, don't you? But it seems from what he's saying that he'd be a really good signing for us. And hopefully, maybe when he gets announced today, tomorrow, whenever it may be, he could be in that brand new away kit. And I think that'd be great, wouldn't it? If we could announce a new signing in the kit that's just been announced today.
I do think that'll happen. I do think that'll happen. I think I saw something on Twitter of him being signing photos in a training kit at the Titanic Hotel at his promo video. So look, the wheels are in motion there. I think everything's signed, sealed, and the medical's done. I think it's just a case now of Everton just need to announce him and then move on to more business because I do think that we need to sign a couple of more players as well. But I do think that this one might be an underrated signing because I think there's longevity there with Jake. And as I said, he could be a future Everton captain. And I'm not just saying that because he's Irish. I think he could be a future Everton and Ireland captain because of the way he leads. And he's like Seamus Coleman, who wasn't afraid to kind of come in and pull people up when they weren't doing their job. I think Jake would be the exact same. I think it'll be easier for him. The fact that he's not speaking a lot of different languages to lads. In training and stuff like that. But I think he needs to get himself into the first team before he starts shouting and stuff at people. And I know he will do that, or he will attempt to obviously try and get into the Everton team before he does any of that type of stuff. So yeah, look, I just hope that he can hit the ground running if he gets in now. He's done a bit of preseason already with Leon, so if he can just carry on and get a good preseason under his belt with us, and then potentially we'll see what happens come the start of the season. I do foresee it'll be Jared and Tarkowski both starting on the first game. But I look back to last year and how underprepared Everton were for the first 3 or 4 games. That it looks as though Everton are kind of getting their stuff together for the first time in a long time and done good business so far this season. And I just think now that we're in a really good position, other than maybe striker position. But I feel as though if we can continue the way we're going and just add maybe 3 more bodies, a winger and a striker, I think we'll actually and maybe another midfielder if we can. But I think with Lindstrom there, I think we're all right. Decore can maybe sit in midfield if we need him to. So I do think that we're in good stead for the season. I think this is another good signing that will help us progress. I think we're going to have a good season. I'm optimistic for the first time in a long time. The last three seasons have been a killer, and I'm sure for yourself as well, as like mentally, it's taken its toll. So to have a good solid season going into the new stadium next year, I think is crucial, and then hopefully we can build on that. But like I don't know, I don't want to. Whenever we've kind of gone into a season with real bad optimism, we've done well. So I don't know. I don't want to think that we're going to finish fourth like we did back in 04, 05. And obviously when we saw Wayne Rooney, we thought it was the worst thing in the world, and we finished fourth, and that really propelled us. And I do think more. I think Deutsch for me is the closest thing we've had to Moyes, and I think that he's really steadied the ship. There was a period where I did want him out last season when we didn't win all those games. I think it was 14 games we went without a win, and I did kind of. But then when he turned it around with the 3 wins in the week, I was like, "Do you know what? Maybe it's been a bit harsh." But then we had so much pressure on us from uh, the points deduction and everything. So I'm just hoping that if we can have a steady, even a mid-table finish, not that I'd be happy with it, but I would take it considering where we are going into the new stadium and then hopefully kick on from there. So that's I'm just hoping for a bit of positivity going into the new season. So yeah.
Oh, we all are, mate, aren't we? And it'll be good to see more players come through the door, but it's great already that a few are in before August. We're always normally complaining that we haven't got enough in. And these signings just seem to be maybe the start of a cleverer Everton in the transfer market. And hopefully that is what it is. But Jake O'Brien set to sign. Hopefully he's in a blue shirt in the next couple of days. And what a perfect time to do a scout report. Thank you very much for coming on, Paul. You've been fantastic. And everyone check out Irish Football Fan TV.
Absolute pleasure, Ellis. Yeah, keep up the great work yourselves, and yeah, hopefully he'll be announced soon, and we can look forward to a really good season.
That's it, mate. But that is all today from the Scout Report on Jake O'Brien. If you want to check out the podcast that Paul did with him as well, we will leave a link to that. And go and buy your away kit. It's out now as well. We've done a video reviewing that kit. So loads of content for you today. A busy day of Everton and hopefully an announcement at some point as well for Jake O'Brien. But let us know what you think. Is he a good signing? We think so. See you in a bit.